puppies. Here we go. Ready to go down. Come on, Gertie.
Come on, Gert. Let's go.
Up. Up. You can do it. Gertie, up.
Good girl.
Good girl.
Hey, baby. I know you want. Oh, but you can't.
Too little. Hey, watch your tail, Gert. Okay, they only had powdered creamer, so I did one with and one without.
So, we are headed to Mexico this morning to cross the border. I wanted to ask Heath what in the world made him decide that going at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday was the best idea, the best place to cross is Colombia.
Okay, so the Colombia border crossing, I've talked to several people when I was down in Palmole with John, and they said that the Colombia border crossing was good. And I'd already read on some different travel blogs that the Colombia border crossing is a less busy, kind of easier crossing. They handle a lot of RVs and stuff like that. So I'm also hoping that the crazy amounts of stuff that we have isn't going to be like weird to the border patrol there, because they're used to people in RVs with a bunch of junk. So hopefully that's going to work in our favor. And as far as the timing, I read from a couple other people. Sunday morning, this is also Palm Sunday, which is a really big, huge ordeal, or huge, not ordeal.
Catholic
huge,
holiday.
It's a huge deal in the Catholic religion in Mexico. That's why I chose Sundays, is because it's really kind of more of a day of worship for a lot of Latin America. And you know, with the bad stuff that you hear about on the news in the border regions of Mexico, leaving early in the morning, you figure less people are out causing trouble at 6 o'clock in the morning than they are at 6 o'clock in the evening. And it also allows us plenty of time, no matter what happens, as far as how long it takes us to get through the border. It allows us just so much more time for any contingencies to still make it to a good place this afternoon.
Do we know for sure that they'll be open at 6 o'clock in the morning on Palm Sunday?
Well, I just verified with our hotel clerk, and I said, the Colombia crossing is open on Sundays, right? And he said, "Sí." So we're all good, I believe. I know that the Laredo one is open also on Sunday, which it would be closer closer to get to the border crossing, and then closer to get to our ultimate destination. But apparently this was just more chill, so I figure
Why not go
through this one for our first time crossing the border. The less crazy it is, the easier it's going to be on us as well.
And the dogs.
And the dogs. And that's another good thing about crossing at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's really hot here in Laredo, Texas, Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. And if we were crossing in the afternoon and they had us have the dogs outside for an extended period of time while they were going through our vehicle or whatever else, then it would be really hard on the dogs and very hot. Whereas this morning it's 68 degrees, it's really comfortable. So if we are singled out or pulled aside and they want to spend an hour or two going through the contents of the truck, so be it. It's not going to be like the dogs are going to be dying of a heat stroke. So I think we're there.
Oh, okay.
Do a funny video about that.
So here we are at the crossing, and turns out they don't open until 8, and it is now
At the Colombia crossing.
5:49. So just a good little tidbit for you. Even though people say they open at 6, they do not open until 8. So here we go back to Laredo.
And we're going to do the Laredo
which is
crossing.
open 24/7.
Right.
Which we could have gone in the middle of the night.
And we also were like 3 miles from that one versus
30 miles.
30, 20 something miles from
Good to know.
from the other one. So anyway, we had this idea, this grand plan, and it's as much as I've planned everything so perfectly, it seemed up to this point, I certainly failed on this one. So, oh well. Can't find information on everything on the interwebs.
That's right. But well, that's why we're here to do this, to help people who may want to do this as well. So here we are at yet another crossing. Back in Laredo. The article we read said to use number 2, so that's what we're gonna do. Apparently number 1 goes through downtown. We don't know.
Continue straight onto Juarez Lincoln International Bridge. In a quarter mile, continue onto Calle Leandro Valley.
So we're at the border. Had trouble finding our list that Heath made, but they're going through the car now. Just searching everything. The bed of the truck. And the dogs are actually being very calm. And so, looks like he's just telling us where to go. Which is a good thing.
Perfecto. Gracias. Alright, we're all good. We lock that, and then we'll make the left here, go 3 blocks to the light, make another left, and it takes us over to where we pay.
Okay. So this is
Head south on Calle Leandro Valley toward Calle Nicolas Bravo, then turn left onto Calle Nicolas Bravo. Turn left onto Calle Nicolas Bravo. Head east on Calle Nicolas Bravo toward Avenida Jesus Carranza. Continue on Calle Nicolas Bravo for 7 miles.
Passports are under here with
nope,
that.
they're right here.
Okay.
Let's say go where those people are going.
Yep.
Be careful. There's a big telephone pole right there. Would you like me to do something?
No. Alright, Puente Internacional.
Head northwest on Calle Nicolas Bravo toward Avenida Luis Donaldo Colosio, then use any lane to turn left onto Boulevard 15 de Junio. Use any lane to turn left onto Boulevard 15 de Junio, Avenida Luis Donaldo Colosio, then turn left onto Calle Pedro J. Mendez. Turn left onto Calle Pedro J. Mendez, then turn left onto Calle Nicolas Bravo.
I don't either.
Okay, so after the problems from this morning, we are finally through immigration. It really wasn't that bad once we had everything together, but I had a couple errors. I'm gonna say that I was tired, and that's why. You go through the first line to pick up your papers, your immigration forms, then you go fill them out, and then you go through the next line where you
Go through line 1, get the paperwork, line 2,
to submit your paperwork.
get the paperwork.
Somebody dropped $1.
$1.
Lucky day.
Yes, so.
Yeah, line 2, you submit your paperwork, and then you go have to go get copies made, and that's in the same building. It's super easy, and we had already made copies of most of the stuff, so that was really easy, and we already had our auto insurance, so that we didn't have to go deal with that. And we already have foreign currency, so we didn't have to deal with that. So we went to line 4, and that was pretty easy, other than I forgot to bring in my originals of my title and registration for the vehicle. So if you're watching this, remember to bring your originals and the copies, and it will go smoother than it did for us. But our agent there was really good. She marked our paperwork that we'd already waited in line, so once we went out and got the title and registration, she let us get right back to the front of the line and took care of us pretty efficiently. So we've got the all-important sticker on the windshield now. And
sorry, Granny just ate a foreign bone.
Yeah, and Granny's finding that she likes Mexican chicken bones just as good as those in Estados Unidos. So anyway, now it's time for us to just take a minute and get our map queued up and reorient ourselves, and we will be ready to drive to San Miguel de Allende because it's still early enough. And oh yeah, and also the process, sorry Gran. So the process of going through the gracias. The process of the actual border crossing, the guy who looked at our truck, he was super good, very friendly, and when I opened the back up, he said, wow, that's a lot of stuff. And I said, yeah, I've got a list. And we had misplaced the list, but that was fine. We found it, and he looked at it and just asked us a couple questions about where we were going. He just asked us a couple questions about where we were going, and that was pretty much it. He's like, okay, you're good to go. So that was one of those things where we planned certainly for the worst, and it did go way easier than anticipated. So easier than we could have hoped for. Anyway, I guess that's it for now. We're gonna look at some maps and hit the road. So see you later.
This is the line of cars going north, I guess, since we're going south.
Crossing into
the United States.
In 400 meters, slight left to stay on Avenida Luis Donaldo Colosio.
No, it's actually not that bad.
Are you going? All right, so I forgot to say this a little bit ago because we had a lot of stuff going on, but I did want to say, hey Wendy, welcome to Mexico. Or maybe bienvenida a Mexico.
So we've been in Mexico now for about 4 days, so we're just kind of recuperating tonight.
Yeah,
so
we got a really comfy place to stay, which is a nice treat.
Yeah, so we left at like 5 o'clock in the morning from Laredo, Texas. We were going to cross at the Columbia crossing at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and got there, and turns out they don't open till 8.
Yeah.
So we drove about 30 minutes out of our way and had to turn around and go back to Laredo to cross the border because they're open 24/7. So it was still dark out, which is a good thing because we had the dogs with us and they had to sit in the car while we did all this. So we went across the border. Just as you cross over, we get...
yeah, as soon as you cross over, there's 2 lines. One for if you have stuff to declare and one if you don't. And we went through the line that said nothing to declare, and they signaled us over. As soon as I opened the back up, Wendy stayed in the truck, the dogs were in the truck, and as soon as I opened the back up, the guy was like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. And I said in Spanish to him, we have a list. And unfortunately,
we couldn't find
the list. So make sure you know where your list is. But it turned out we did find it, and it turned out to be a really good thing because I had all the totes numbered and everything, and I'd gone through all this, if you've watched any of our other videos, all of my process. And he looked at the list and was like, okay, And I was like, yeah, it's mostly clothes and dishes and personal items. And he's like, okay, looks good. You're free to go. I was like, all right, that was
And then we were like,
really easy compared to what I was prepared for.
free to go where? And he said 3 blocks down, take a left. So we go 3 blocks down and take a left, and the left is actually not a hard left, which is what we did, which was taking us back into the United States. Not what you want to do. You want to go on the other side of the concrete dividers.
Yeah, and this is in Laredo, at the Laredo crossing. I don't know what it's like at any of the other ones, but at the Laredo crossing. And they say 3 blocks down. It's basically go down until it pretty much dead ends where they send you. And then you either take the hard left or the long left, and take the long one, and it'll get you there.
So anyway, it's a junky little white building, 1 story, maybe it's 2 stories, really long. You go in, the guy helps you park. You go into the first section and get there early if you have pets, because they do have to stay in the car. So
yeah, that was huge because it was still dark when we got there, so it wasn't hot at all. And you know, once the sun goes up, Laredo, Texas, a couple weeks before Easter, so in March, and Laredo was hot. So
it was a good thing to get there early. However, when you get there that early, there's not but 1 guy working the counter, and he's doing both handing out your immigration papers, then you have to fill them out, and then you have to come back, and he's also the same person who takes the immigration papers. So you have to wait in 2 lines, but it's 1 person working. So maybe if you wait until like 7:30ish or 8, maybe, there's like some other people that started coming to work, and that kind of sped the line up. We noticed that the people that got there like 45 minutes after us, they were leaving at the same time we were.
True. And also, we went on a Sunday morning, and so
Maybe other days are different.
Maybe other days are different, but the one thing that was nice with Sunday morning is that you don't have your typical commuters that are going to and from work or crossing the border for those reasons. I will say, though, however, the line coming back to the United States on Sunday morning, when we got through, was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was
super long. So
it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be, though.
No, but it was a pretty easy process for us. You have some notes on what we did inside, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So then the next thing, after you go through that 1 line and you fill out your immigration papers, and then return your immigration papers, and they give you that little stub. If you've flown on a plane before, you know you fill those out on the plane, and they give you the little stub back that you have to bring back with you when you leave the country. So anyway, we got that and a bunch of other paperwork, copies of stuff, and we have, then you, next line you go to, you have to get copies made of your little stub and other paperwork that you brought with you. And then you go to which doesn't take any time. That took maybe, I don't know, a minute. And then you go to the next line, which is where you have to register your car if you're driving in. If it's a car that you purchased in the United States, then you have to register it, and it's good for 6 months.
Yeah, so
and it's
with
the Benercito, is that right?
Benercito, yeah. And with both of those, you want to make sure that you do 6 months if you're going to be driving down in your stay and you're coming to stay. 180 days is your max if you're on a tourist visa.
If you own your car outright, you have to have your original title and your registration where it's registered. So make sure you have the originals, not copies. We had copies and had to leave the line and go out to the car, get the original stuff and bring it back in, which, you know, slowed down the process as well. If you have a note on your car, you have to have...
Yeah, so if you don't own your car, then you have to get, like, permission from the note holder. Basically, if it's through a bank, if that's who you're borrowing from, or from the car dealer, or whoever you make your payments to, they have to give you permission if you don't own your car with, like, a certified letter, and have multiple copies of that ready. But we just had the original title and copies. They make copies there, so if you don't have copies, don't worry about it.
It's not cheap.
It's not expensive. Yeah, it's like pennies, you know.
Yeah. So after you finished all of that, make sure that you take the quota, the toll roads. They're supposedly better. We didn't drive on many back roads, but the quotas are not that great either. So it's worth the money to pay for it. Plus, you can go faster.
Yeah, you can go faster, and there are stretches where you're definitely relieved because it's quite nice. But other stretches, you're like, wow, I'm riding a bull.
And how many miles are we driving in Mexico?
I don't even know, to be honest.
Somewhere around 1,500, I think.
We're 4 days in, and on our total trip, we're well, in Mexico we're probably closing in on 1,000 miles already, and I think we've probably got another 800 to go. So it's not as far as I was thinking initially, but on our entire trip we're about 3,500 miles in. So
so obviously take the quota. Make sure that when you go to the bathroom, you women in particular, take some tissue with you. More than likely they're not going to have tissue in there. If they do, it's outside of the bathroom, so you have to take a handful in with you. But also be prepared to pay for entrance into the bathroom, anywhere from like 2 to 5 pesos.
Yeah.
Or
just have exact
or
change.
if there's an attendant, she or he will give you toilet paper and tip them. And again, 2 to 5 pesos is plenty.
Yeah, but just keep plenty of change, because you're going to need it for tolls. You're going to need it for everything. So, it's a good time if you've already exchanged your currency, which you should have, to go ahead and start spending some of the bigger bills to other places, like when you gas up, so that you get more change, and just like keep a big change cup going, because you're going to need it. And also, one of the things that we did when we crossed over and got into Mexico, and those sort of scary miles as soon as you cross over that you hear about, in the border zone. Nobody had really said anything about this, but we sort of looked for other vehicles that had plates from the United States, and found sort of a group of those and stuck with them, so that we sort of had safety in numbers, if you will. You don't want to find yourself necessarily, we didn't see anything bad, but in the interest of being as cautious as possible, you wouldn't want to be there by yourself. And the other thing that people have said is, when it comes to stopping or when you're in traffic, don't pull up right next to the person in front of you or right up on their bumper, because then you're really susceptible to be boxed in by a car coming up behind you or whatever. So leave yourself plenty of room so that you do have an exit plan. That's what we did. We didn't have to use any of that, but it gave us peace of mind knowing that we'd thought about it and had an idea of what we would do if something were to go wrong. So
we were heading towards San Miguel de Allende.
San Miguel de Allende, yeah. We went through Monterrey.
It took us another 10 hours probably on top of what we had already spent trying to get into the country that morning.
Yeah.
It was a long, long day. And there were a lot of tolls. So being on the road that long, be prepared. Have some snacks with you. Have bottled water with you, especially if you have pets. There's plenty of places to stop along the road. There's a restaurant, oh my goodness, probably every 2 or 3 in a mile, restaurants, and but they don't have gas. So make sure that you don't let your car get below a quarter of a tank of gas, because it might be a long time before you see a gas station again. And don't get too comfy with your speed and how quickly you're getting somewhere, because guaranteed there's going to be a toll coming up with a quickness.
And in the northern states in particular, we noticed the speed limit changes like every 20 seconds. You go through a toll and it's like 110 kilometers an hour, and then it drops down to 80, and then 60, and then back to 100, and then 80, and then 40, and it's like it's all over the place. So we were sticking pretty close to the speed limit, just because a long day, we were a little bit tired and didn't want to welcome ourselves to Mexico with a speeding ticket. So if you've done it before, you can probably get to San Miguel a good bit quicker. But we also took a wrong turn in Monterrey, which is a really cool city.
Yeah.
It's super modern and just like huge and
the mountains
beautiful.
are beautiful.
Yeah.
If when you do stop at a red light, somebody's going to jump out and wash your windows, and don't shoo them away. Let them do it, because your windshield gets really, really dirty, and you just give them
2 or 3 pesos is worth it.
It's totally worth it,
especially if you want to take
a lot
shots
of our pictures have dead bugs in them. So, and it's a good idea too to bring a camera and not just your iPhone to take pictures with, because your iPhone's going to fill up rather quickly and the battery's going to be dead, and you don't have good cell service anyway. So, not that that's going to affect your camera, but
it's also a good idea to bring like a paper map,
just in case. Yeah, to bring a paper map for sure, just in case you're getting lost.
And we were both on 2 different cell carriers, so we were kind of comparing the service, and it didn't seem to be a real appreciable difference, but we wanted to know because we're moving down here full time.
Before you make your reservation at a hotel, check Google Maps, where you can see the actual like a picture of the place and like the surrounding area. We did not do that. There was a spot we stopped at last night, which was kind of sketchy, but it was the only dog-friendly hotel for a long time, and at the point when we got there was no, because we're not traveling at night. Don't travel at night apparently on the roads here. The place we stayed at last night was pay by the hour, or
4-hour blocks,
4-hour
or a full
blocks.
night.
But we also noticed there were a lot of places along that road, because it's a lot of truck drivers. You can just have a 4-hour night. However, our place was really sketchy, and there was no place to walk the dogs. They pretty much had to pee in the garden up front, which was about the size of a king-size bed. That was the only spot they had to go. And it was very secure parking. What was it called? Hotel Illusion.
Hold up.
It was in Cordoba.
Hey, Gardy,
Stop.
we can edit that out.
Also, some things to think about when you're traveling through Mexico is you're only supposed to get in the left-hand lane to pass, although the right-hand lane seems to be a good bit more crummy to drive on than the left-hand lane.
Yeah, because all the trucks use it, so it's just beat up and it's like really rough compared to the left usually.
If you are in the right-hand lane and the car in front of you is getting onto the shoulder of the right-hand side and they put their left blinker on, that just means they want you to pass. So just go around them, and if you think somebody's coming up on you really fast, turn your left blinker on so they can go around you as well. And also just scoot over, and if you see cars coming the other direction in your lane, just scoot over. The shoulder's pretty big in most places, and I think it's kind of set up, designed for that.
Yeah, it's very commonplace. And if you're in the left lane and somebody comes up behind you, either flashing their lights or with their left turn signal on, that means that they're passing. It means get out of their way. So as soon as you have an opportunity to safely get into the right lane, do so, because it's courteous, and you'll have an opportunity at some point to take advantage of the same thing. So
if you're spending as much time in the car as we are, there's just a quick list to things to keep in the car with you, and something that we figured out because we had it all packed in the back, our medicine and everything. Keep Tylenol or Advil, aspirin, whatever you like to use, and Tums, stuff for your stomach, in the car with you. Lotion, because it's dry, really dry here, and handy wipes are really good too. Sometimes you go to a bathroom and the water doesn't work either, so it's a good thing to have on hand as well. And definitely bring snacks. Thank you, Tony and Tommy, for hooking us up with all the snacks, because we've eaten almost all of them.
I think, yeah, other than like a couple Jelly Bellies,
we still have some Jelly Bellies.
That's about
it.
The only thing that survived so far.
Yeah.
And we're working on those.
And I guess that's about it for now. We are now in, I don't even know where we are.
We're
in Tabasco, somewhere in Tabasco.
Yeah, we're in
Tabasco.
Villahermosa, Tabasco, and it's really kind of cool. So we're stoked because last night was
kind of
crummy. So the travel gods gave us a good day today, and we got here and have 2 comfy beds, so we can stretch out with the dogs and everything else, and a really clean, comfy place with like Wi-Fi and cable TV and all that is like a treat when you've been on the road for a couple of weeks already. So
right, that's all we have for now.
All right, thanks for watching, y'all.